Today, we're looking at Diamine Marine. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Diamine Marine is a teal turquoise kind of color, which is very interesting on its own, although those aren't colors I normally run to. Now, to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Lamy All-Star with a 1.1 stub to take my notes for this video. Now, before we get to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography, and I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down, immediately put it in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this ink is fleeing from the water. Immediately pushing up, we start to see some of that light teal to turquoise, or light turquoise. We start to see it get a little darker, and then some of the teals, and a very dark turquoise line across the top. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And it just doesn't travel as far. That's really the difference. It didn't flee entirely from the very beginning. It did hold a little bit as it pushed up. But overall, there's no real difference between the two. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Highlighter, it handled very well. It did go from being an extra fine to being about a fine. There was no blooming, which makes this very good to use in a note-taking situation. I don't feel like I would lose what I've written. Water's reactivating and lifting the darker tones, but not the lighter tones. There seems to be a lot of ink still left there. Flush did everything that water did and more. You are certainly seeing white of the paper coming through from using pen flush. We also get to see some of the dots of the rhodia paper, making pen flush all you should need to get this out of your pen. Bleach, or a 1/3 bleach solution, obliterates it. It goes away, but please do not use bleach to get this out of your pen. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Diamine Marine has a viscosity of 2.07, making it just a little bit wetter than normal. Now, to find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Diamine Marine has an average dry time of 17 seconds, making it average. Absolutely average. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shading. It's kind of a strange turquoise to me, not really turquoise to me in how I'm seeing it. It seems to lean a little teal. Alright, whatever. Extra fine is a noticeably lighter tone with no feather, spread, halo sheen, and it does offer little bits of shading. You can see how even the camera is having some trouble with this color. It does offer a little bit of shading. The U and the K in quick is a little bit darker. The starts a little lighter, gets a little darker. Brown offers some nice shading throughout the word, where it goes from dark to really dark to light to darker again. So it offers some decent shading there. 11 seconds to dry. The medium, the same tone that I get with the extra fine, with no feather, spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading throughout it. The starts light and gets dark. Quick is a dark on the left, gets lighter. The UI gets darker. The C is lighter, and the K gets dark again. It offers some really nice shading inside the writing. 16 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show us decent color variation, and we did get it in the writing. I do not think you could recover this if you smeared it while you were writing. Look at that color difference.
This ink is very affected by the tone of the paper that it is on. The Tomoe River, no bleeding, minor ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. Again, look at the tone of that. It's a very different color for having the cream colored background. Extra fine, no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 18 seconds to dry. It's the same tone that I got with the 1.1. Now in the same tone on the medium has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. It took 24 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium showed us no color variation. We didn't expect it, we didn't get it, and a smear test, you could not recover it. Rhodia gives us no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Again, it just, yeah, it's a slightly different white of the paper and a slightly different tone. This ink is very affected by the paper it's on. The extra fine, little lighter tone than we got with the 1.1. The extra fine has no feather spread, halo sheen. It offers little bits of shading. It's a very gentle shading in and a gentle shading out. We see it in Quick is a very mid-tone and it gets dark at the K. Brown starts very light and gets darker. Fox starts very light and gets darker. The over is a much darker word than the word the. 13 seconds to dry. Noticeably darker tone with the medium. We're back to the tone that we saw with the 1.1. The medium offered no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. We lost the shading here. 17 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine showed us a little bit of color variation. We saw little bits of color variation. The scrubby of the medium showed us none. We got none. And the smear test, I believe you could recover it if you did smear while you were writing. So as it's so affected by the color of the paper it's on, what happens with the yellow Rhodia? We start out, it has no bleeding, no ghosting. Not unexpected. Completely different colors. Completely different colors on the yellow than on the white, which is neat when it does that. I don't mind it. I also don't mind when they stay the same, as long as the color that I see is pleasant to me. The 1.1 offers no feather spread, halo sheen, little spots of shading. The top of the D is a little darker than the rest of the D. The E is and the N is darker than the MI. Same thing's going on with Marine. In the extra fine, it's a little bit lighter tone. It has no feather spread, halo sheen. It shows more shading. The starts light, gets dark, gets light at the top, dark again at the bottom. Quick starts dark, gets light through the middle, and works its way darker into the K. Brown starts dark, gets to a medium tone. Over goes from very light to very dark. Nice shading in the writing. Much nicer, much more standout than we saw in the white paper. 13 seconds to dry. Now the medium has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading in the writing. It is a darker tone than we saw with the extra fine. Looking at over starts very light, gets much darker, gets light at the end of the E into the R, and R gets very dark again. Quick starts very dark, gets light, gets dark into the UI, super dark into the CK. Nice stuff. Brown starts much lighter than it, and it gets darker as you write. So it's really nice shading in this writing. I think it did much better on the yellow paper than it did on the white. 17 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium showed us color variation, lots of color variation. We saw lots of shading up here. And the smear test, I believe you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. This is original Crown Mill. It's a laid paper. For correspondence and what have you, we got bleed spots. We shouldn't be getting bleed spots on this, but we do. We have bleed spots. They're not touching the page underneath, but they would render the back of the page unusable. In correspondence, I wouldn't write on the back of the page if it's got this many spots coming through. It would be distracting to read for me. We have no real show through, but those bleeding spots are a little distracting given this paper. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a noticeably lighter tone than the 1.1. The extra fine has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. It took 6 seconds to dry. The medium's a darker tone, back to what we saw with the 1.1. The medium has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show us no color variation. We didn't get any color variation, and you are not recovering this smear if you smeared it while you were writing. Black and red notebook. No bleeding, no ghosting. Very nice. Wow, that came through loud turning that paper over. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. Now, it is a lighter tone than I saw in the 1.1, and it is lighter than we're going to get in the medium. The medium is the darkest of what we see here. It is only a tad bit darker than what I see with the 1.1. Medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade. It took 11 seconds to dry, which compared to the extra fine is practically nothing. The scrubby for the extra fine and the medium show us no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it. The smear test, you probably could not recover this if you smeared it while you were writing, so this is not good for note takers. That is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Diamine Marine, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I wanted a very nice dark black to go with this, and I chose Elixir Black. Elixir being a company out of Singapore. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Diamine Marine? This turquoise leans more teal. I am not a turquoise or a teal person. I couldn't see using that color days on end and being happy. Now that being said, this ink performs very well and it is easy to read on the page. Thanks for watching.